The Galactic Council's misconception. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension. Representatives from 100 different species shifted uneasily in their seats, their varied anatomies creating a cacophony of rustling, clicking, and low hums. At the center of the chamber, High Counselor Zixara, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin, called the session to order. Esteemed colleagues, Zixara's voice resonated through the chamber. We face a crisis unlike any in our history. The Vexari swarm continues to expand, consuming world after world. Our united fleets have failed to halt their advance. We must consider unconventional solutions. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Everyone knew what, or rather, who, Zixara was referring to. Ambassador Krell of the militant Tarn Imperium rose, his exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's lights. "You speak of the humans," he growled. "Those soft creatures who hide behind their diplomacy and trade agreements. What use could they possibly be?" Zixara's multifaceted eyes flickered. "The humans possess resources and technology that could turn the tide of this war. Their home system alone contains more rare elements than a dozen of our mining worlds combined. Then we should take what we need by force." Krell slammed a clawed appendage on his podium. "The humans are weak. They haven't engaged in large-scale conflict for over 5 centuries. They would crumble before a united galactic fleet." A new voice joined the debate, quiet but firm. It belonged to senior analyst Lyra, one of the few in the chamber who had spent significant time studying human history and culture. "We would be wise not to underestimate the humans," Lyra cautioned. "Their peaceful exterior masks a complex and potentially dangerous species." Krell scoffed. "Dangerous? They send aid ships and diplomats while we fight and die. They debate in committees while worlds burn. Where is the danger in that?" Lyra's tentacles rippled, a sign of agitation in her species. "The humans have a saying, si vis pacem, parabellum. It means, if you want peace, prepare for war. Their history is fraught with conflict, and their periods of peace are often used to develop more advanced weapons and strategies." "Ancient history," another counselor dismissed. "They've grown soft, complacent." Zixara raised a hand for silence. "Regardless of their past, we need their resources now. The question is, how do we secure their cooperation?" The debate raged for hours. Some argued for diplomacy, others for coercion, and a vocal minority led by Krell pushed for outright invasion. In the end, a compromise was reached. "We will issue an ultimatum," Zixara declared. "The humans will join our war effort against the Vexari swarm, committing troops, ships, and resources. If they refuse, we will consider it an act of hostility against the galactic community." As the council session adjourned, Lyra approached Zixara privately. "High Counselor, I urge caution. Forcing the humans into this conflict may have unforeseen consequences." Zixara's skin rippled with patterns of confidence and dismissal. "Your concern is noted, Analyst Lyra, but we've observed the humans for centuries. They value peace above all else. They'll comply to avoid conflict, providing us the resources we need without the messy business of actual warfare." Lyra wanted to argue further, to explain the nuances of human psychology and the potential powder keg they were igniting. But she knew her words would fall on deaf ears. The council had made its decision. Days later, a galactic transmission was broadcast to Earth and all human colonies. The message was clear: join the war effort or face the consequences. The council chambers fell silent as they awaited humanity's response. It came far quicker than anyone anticipated. Barely hours after the ultimatum was sent, a reply arrived. Short, simple, and chilling in its implications. "Understood. We accept. Prepare to receive our emissaries." The council erupted into chaos. This wasn't the response they had expected, neither immediate capitulation nor frightened negotiation. It was readiness. As the counselors argued and speculated, a small human vessel entered the system, requesting permission to dock with the council station. Against the protestations of security advisors, Zix-Era granted clearance. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity's next move would be. The human delegation that emerged from the ship was not what anyone expected. There were no diplomats in fine suits, no bureaucrats clutching datapads. Instead, 5 individuals in crisp military uniforms strode onto the station. Their leader, a weathered woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen countless battles, stepped forward. "I am Fleet Admiral Helena Graves of the United Earth Defense Force," she announced, her voice carrying an authority that silenced the entire chamber. "We understand you're in need of our assistance. We're here to discuss the terms of our involvement." Zix-Era, taken aback by the military presence, struggled to regain composure. "Admiral Graves, we expected a diplomatic envoy." Graves' lips curled into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "In times of war, Admiral, soldiers become diplomats. Now shall we begin? Time is of the essence, and I believe you have an enemy that needs defeating." As the human delegation followed Zix-Era into the private council chambers, the assembled aliens exchanged worried glances. They had expected to dictate terms to a reluctant, pacifistic race. Instead, they found themselves face to face with what seemed to be a highly organized, militaristic force that had been waiting for this moment. Lyra, observing from the sidelines, felt a chill run down her spine. The humans hadn't reacted with fear or hesitation to the prospect of war. They had responded with a readiness that spoke of long preparation. As the doors to the council chamber closed behind Admiral Graves and her team, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy had just awakened a sleeping giant. And as negotiations began behind closed doors, the true nature of humanity, its capacity for both peace and war, was about to reveal itself to an unsuspecting galaxy. Humanity's unexpected response. The private council chamber, usually a place of measured debate and careful diplomacy, crackled with tension. Admiral Helena Graves sat at one end of the long table, her posture ramrod straight, her eyes scanning the alien delegates with a tactical precision that made many of them squirm. High Counselor Zix-Era, still trying to regain control of the situation, spoke first. "Admiral Graves, we appreciate your prompt response to our request. However, we must express our surprise at the nature of your delegation." Graves raised an eyebrow. "You called for military assistance, Counselor. Did you expect us to send poets and philosophers to fight your war?" A low murmur rippled through the alien representatives. Krell, the Tarn ambassador, leaned forward, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "We expected compliance, human, not this show of whatever this is." "Readiness," Graves replied coolly. "You're looking at readiness, Ambassador Krell. Now, shall we discuss the tactical situation, or would you prefer to continue expressing your surprise at our ability to respond to a crisis?" Zix-Era intervened, her skin flickering with patterns of concern and curiosity. "Of course, Admiral. Please enlighten us on how humanity proposes to assist in our conflict with the Vexari swarm." Graves nodded to one of her officers, who activated a holographic display in the center of the table. A detailed map of the galaxy materialized, with red areas indicating Vexari-controlled space. "The Vexari swarm operates on a hive mind principle," Graves began, her voice taking on a lecturing tone. "Their strength lies in numbers and coordination. However, this also presents a critical weakness." She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a particular sector. "We propose a targeted strike here, at what we believe to be one of their primary command nodes. Sever this, and a significant portion of their fleet will be thrown into disarray." The alien delegates leaned in, studying the display with a mixture of skepticism and grudging interest. "And how, exactly, do you plan to penetrate their defenses?" Krell challenged. "Our combined fleets have tried and failed numerous times." A ghost of a smile played on Graves' lips. "With respect, Ambassador, you haven't had access to human military technology. We've developed systems specifically designed to counter hive mind tactical algorithms." She gestured, and the hologram shifted to display a sleek, predatory-looking warship. This is the UES Nemesis, the first of our new Spectre-class stealth dreadnoughts. Equipped with quantum phase drives and adaptive camouflage, it can slip past the Vexari sensory networks undetected. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Zixera's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly. Admiral Graves, are you saying that humanity has been developing advanced military technology all this time? Of course, Graves replied matter-of-factly. Peace is a laudable goal, Counselor, but it's maintained through strength and preparedness. We've spent centuries perfecting our defenses and studying potential threats. The Vexari swarm has been on our radar for quite some time. Lyra, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. But why? If you knew about the threat, why didn't you offer assistance earlier? Graves turned to the analyst, her expression softening slightly. A fair question. The simple answer is, we weren't asked. Humanity has learned, through bitter experience, that unsolicited intervention often does more harm than good. We prepared, we watched, and we waited for the galaxy to decide it needed us. The implications of this statement hung heavy in the air. The Council had assumed humanity was ignorant or indifferent to galactic affairs. The truth was far more complex and potentially far more dangerous. Zixera, struggling to process this paradigm shift, attempted to steer the conversation back to practical matters. Your proposal is intriguing, Admiral. But surely you don't expect to turn the tide of this war with a single ship, no matter how advanced. Of course not, Graves agreed. The Nemesis is merely the tip of the spear. Behind it stands the full might of the United Earth Defense Force. Over 10,000 warships, millions of trained personnel, and industrial capacity that can outproduce the Vexari 10-1. The chamber erupted into shocked exclamations and hurried discussions. Krell slammed his clawed appendage on the table. Impossible. There's no way you could have hidden such a force from our observations. Graves smiled, but there was no warmth in it. With respect, Ambassador, if we can hide from the Vexari swarm, hiding from your observation platforms is child's play. We've had centuries to perfect our deception capabilities. As the alien delegates argued amongst themselves, Lyra found herself studying Admiral Graves more closely. There was something in the human's eyes, a weariness, perhaps, or a deep-seated resolve, that spoke of burdens beyond mere military command. Admiral, Lyra ventured, you speak of humanity's preparedness, but also of its reluctance to intervene. What changed? Why agree to join this war now? Graves met Lyra's gaze, and for a moment, the hard exterior cracked, revealing a glimpse of the weight she carried. Because, analyst Lyra, there comes a point where inaction becomes complicity. We watched, we prepared, and we hoped the galaxy would find a solution. But now, with worlds burning and billions at risk, we can stand aside no longer. She stood, addressing the entire chamber. Make no mistake, counselors. Humanity does not enter this war lightly. We know the cost of conflict better than most. But we also know the price of standing idle while evil triumphs. You've awakened a sleeping giant, as one of our historians once said, and we come not just with advanced weapons and ships, but with the full weight of humanity's indomitable spirit. The chamber fell silent, the alien delegates finally grasping the magnitude of what they had set in motion. They had expected to prod a reluctant, pacifistic race into providing resources. Instead, they had unleashed a force that had been preparing for this moment for centuries. As the meeting adjourned and plans were set in motion, Zixera approached Graves privately. Admiral, I must ask, are we unleashing something we cannot control? Is humanity truly ready for this? Graves' expression was unreadable. Counselor, the real question is the galaxy ready for humanity? Because ready or not, we're here, and we intend to win this war. As the human delegation departed to begin preparations, the Council was left to contemplate the new reality they faced. The sleeping giant had awakened, and the true test of humanity's strength, and the galaxy's readiness to face it, was about to begin. The battle begins. The vast emptiness of space erupted into chaos as the combined fleets of the Galactic Council engaged the Vexari swarm. Energy beams crisscrossed the void. Missiles left fiery trails in their wake, and explosions bloomed like silent flowers against the backdrop of stars. At the heart of this maelstrom, the UES Nemesis slipped through the battle lines, its quantum phase drive rendering it virtually invisible to both ally and enemy. On the bridge, Admiral Graves stood stoically, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Status report," she commanded. Her XO, Commander Sato, responded crisply. "Phase drive functioning at optimal levels, Admiral. We're approaching the Vexari command node. ETA 3 minutes." Graves nodded, and the rest of the fleet, engaging as planned. "The Vexari are responding exactly as we predicted. They're so focused on our decoy fleet that they haven't noticed us penetrating their defensive line." A ghost of a smile played on Graves' lips. "Excellent. Prepare the Nova package." As the Nemesis closed in on its target, the true scale of the battle became apparent. The Vexari swarm was vast. Tens of thousands of biomechanical ships, moving with eerie synchronization. Against them, the combined fleets of the Galactic Council seemed hopelessly outmatched. But appearances could be deceiving. Suddenly, from the edges of the system, new contacts appeared on the tactical displays of both Vexari and Council ships. Hundreds, then thousands of vessels materialized, emerging from stealth mode. On the Council flagship, High Counselor Zixera stared at the display in disbelief. "By the cosmic egg," she breathed. They actually did it. The human fleet had arrived. Unlike the hodgepodge of designs that made up the Council forces, the human ships moved with practiced precision. Cruisers formed protective screens around massive dreadnoughts, while swarms of fighters darted between larger vessels, harrying the Vexari forces. Ambassador Krell, watching from the Council flagship, couldn't hide his shock. "Impossible," he muttered. "How could they have hidden such a force?" Analyst Lyra, her tentacles waving in excitement, provided the answer. "Look at their formation. The way they move. This isn't just a fleet. It's a force that's trained together for years, maybe decades. They're not just prepared. They're perfectly coordinated." As the human fleet engaged, the tide of battle began to shift. The Vexari, for the first time, seemed uncertain, their hive minds struggling to adapt to this new, unexpected threat. Back on the Nemesis, Admiral Graves watched as her ship closed in on the Vexari command node. "Nova package armed and ready, Admiral," reported Commander Sato. Graves took a deep breath. This was the moment everything hinged on. "Deploy Nova package on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The Nemesis shuddered as it launched its payload, not a conventional weapon, but a specially designed quantum disruptor. As it detonated near the Vexari command node, it didn't cause a physical explosion. Instead, it created a cascading quantum field that severed the psychic links binding the Vexari hive mind together. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the battlefield, Vexari ships suddenly lost cohesion. Some drifted aimlessly, while others began firing wildly, even at their own forces. "It worked," Sato breathed, a rare show of emotion from the usually stoic commander. Graves allowed herself a small nod of satisfaction. "Signal the fleet. Execute Phase 2. Across the battlefield, human ships began deploying a technology that had been centuries in the making. Quantum entanglement communicators, far more advanced than anything the Council or Vexari possessed, allowed the human fleet to coordinate with near-instantaneous precision. The result was a ballet of destruction. Human ships maneuvered in perfect synchronization, concentrating fire on key Vexari vessels, while effortlessly evading return fire. Fighter squadrons executed complex attack patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics. On the Council flagship, the alien representatives watched in awe and not a little fear. This, Zix-Era struggled to find words. This is beyond anything we imagined. Krell, his earlier bravado gone, nodded in agreement. We thought we were recruiting a reluctant ally. Instead, we've unleashed a superpower. Lyra, however, was focused on something else. Look at their tactics, she said, pointing to the display. They're not just destroying the Vexari. They're hurting them, driving them away from populated systems. Indeed, the human fleet was executing a complex strategy, not just winning the battle, but shaping the entire theater of war. Hours passed, and what had started as a desperate last stand by the Council forces had turned into a decisive victory. The Vexari swarm, for the first time in living memory, was in full retreat. As the dust settled and damage reports began coming in, Admiral Graves opened a channel to the Council flagship. High Counselor Zix-Era, the immediate threat has been neutralized. We're beginning rescue and recovery operations. Zix-Era, still trying to process the events of the past few hours, responded hesitantly. Admiral Graves, we are in your debt. But I must ask, what happens now? Graves' expression remained neutral, but there was a hint of steel in her voice. Now, Counselor, we finish what we started. The Vexari are wounded but not defeated. We'll drive them back to their home systems and ensure they never threaten the galaxy again. She paused, letting her words sink in. But when this is over, there will need to be a serious discussion about the future of galactic security and cooperation. Humanity is here to stay, Counselor. The galaxy would do well to recognize that fact. As the transmission ended, the Council members exchanged uneasy glances. They had gotten what they wanted: humanity's intervention in the war. But they were only now beginning to realize the full implications of what they had set in motion. The sleeping giant was awake, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Unraveling the human enigma. In the weeks following the decisive battle against the Vexari swarm, the Galactic Council found itself grappling with a new reality. Humanity, once dismissed as a peripheral species, had become the center of galactic attention. As the human fleet continued to push back the Vexari, diplomatic channels buzzed with activity, and intelligence agencies scrambled to understand their new allies. On the Council's central space station, a special committee had been formed to study and interact with humanity. Analyst Lyra found herself at the forefront of this effort, her previous studies of human culture now invaluable. We need to understand them, Zix-Era stressed during a high-level meeting. Not just their technology, but their motivations, their society. How did they hide such military might from us for so long? Lyra stepped forward, her tentacles rippling with a mix of excitement and apprehension. High Counselor, I believe I've found some answers, but they're unsettling. She activated a holographic display, showing a timeline of human history. Humanity's past is marked by near-constant conflict, wars that engulf their entire planet, weapons of mass destruction, ideological battles that span generations. But look here. She highlighted a period several centuries back. This is when they achieved interstellar travel and made first contact with alien life. Krell leaned forward, his mandibles clicking. And did this not bring them peace as it did for many species? Lyra shook her head. Not peace, Ambassador. Caution. Humanity looked to the stars and saw potential threats everywhere. They didn't trust that other species would be peaceful, so they prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. She brought up images of vast underground complexes and orbital shipyards hidden within asteroids. They built in secret, developed technologies that could be easily disguised as civilian advancements. Every trade agreement, every cultural exchange, it was all part of a centuries-long strategy of preparation and misdirection. The Council members murmured uneasily. Zix-Era's skin rippled with patterns of concern. But why? Why go to such lengths? Because, came a new voice, we remembered our history. The Council turned to see Admiral Graves entering the chamber, accompanied by a team of human diplomats and scientists. The Admiral's presence commanded immediate attention. "Counselors," Graves began, her voice steady, "humanity's history is one of triumph and tragedy. We've seen empires rise and fall, witnessed the horrors of genocide and the marvels of scientific achievement. When we looked to the stars, we carried that history with us." She gestured to the holographic display. "We hoped for peace but prepared for war. Not out of aggression, but out of a deep-seated need to protect our own and to never again be caught unprepared." One of the human scientists, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, stepped forward. "What you're seeing now is the result of Project Olympus, a multi-generational effort to ensure humanity's survival in a potentially hostile galaxy." She brought up new images, massive solar arrays hidden in gas giants, antimatter production facilities disguised as research outposts. Every human colony, every trade route, every diplomatic mission. They all served a dual purpose. We were building connections, yes, but also creating a vast, hidden infrastructure. The council members listened in stunned silence as the humans detailed the scale of their preparations. Fleets hidden in pocket dimensions, AIs that had been silently observing and learning about alien cultures for centuries, and technologies that seemed to border on the impossible. Krell, his earlier bravado long gone, spoke up. How can we trust you now, knowing you've deceived us for so long?" Admiral Graves met his gaze steadily. "Trust is earned, Ambassador. We're here now fighting alongside you, because we chose to be. We could have remained hidden, letting the galaxy burn while we stayed safe. Instead, we stepped forward when called." Lyra, her analytical mind racing, posed a question. "But surely, Admiral, not all humans could have been part of this grand deception. How did you maintain secrecy on such a scale?" Dr. Rodriguez answered this one. "You're right, Analyst Lyra. The majority of humanity was unaware of the full scope of Project Olympus. We maintained a careful balance, a society that genuinely valued peace and diplomacy, but with a hidden core dedicated to preparation and defense." As the revelations continued, the mood in the council chamber shifted. The initial fear and suspicion began to give way to a grudging respect and even a sense of relief. Humanity's deception had been masterful, yes, but it had also saved the galaxy from the Vexeri threat. Zixara, taking in all the information, finally spoke. "Admiral Graves, Dr. Rodriguez, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you for your candor. It's clear that we have much to learn from humanity." She paused, her multifaceted eyes scanning the room. "But I must ask, what happens now? Where does humanity see itself in the future of galactic affairs?" Admiral Graves stepped forward, her posture straight, her eyes meeting each council member in turn. "Now, High Counselor, we build a future together. Humanity is ready to take its place as a full member of the galactic community. We bring with us not just our military might, but our innovation, our adaptability, and our unwavering spirit." She gestured to her team. "We're prepared to share our technologies, our strategies, to help create a safer galaxy for all species. But in return, we ask for equal partnership. The old power structures of the Galactic Council will need to evolve." The implications of her words hung heavy in the air. The galaxy stood on the brink of a new era, one shaped by humanity's revealed strength and the hard-earned lessons of cooperation in the face of the Vexeri threat. As the meeting adjourned and plans for future collaborations began to take shape, Lyra found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. The galaxy had sought to awaken a sleeping giant for its resources. Instead, it had gained a complex, powerful ally that would reshape the very foundations of galactic society. The human enigma was unraveling, but its full impact was yet to be felt. The true test of this new galactic order was still to come. The new galactic order. The war against the Vexeri swarm raged on for months, but with humanity's involvement, the outcome was never in doubt. Across the galaxy, worlds that had cowered in fear now celebrated as news of victory after victory spread. On the front lines, the true extent of human military prowess was on full display. The UES Nemesis, once thought to be the pinnacle of human technology, proved to be just the beginning. New ships joined the fray, each more advanced than the last. Quantum phase cannons tore through Vexari bio-armor like paper, while temporal disruption fields froze entire enemy fleets in bubbles of dilated time. But it wasn't just military might that turned the tide. Human scientists worked tirelessly alongside alien counterparts, decoding the intricacies of the Vexari hive mind. This collaboration led to the development of psychic jamming technology, which proved devastating to the swarm's ability to coordinate large-scale attacks. As the Vexari were pushed back to their home systems, Admiral Graves stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, watching the final battle unfold. Beside her, High Counselor Zixera marveled at the efficiency of the human-led coalition. "It's almost beautiful," Zixera murmured, in a terrifying sort of way. Graves nodded solemnly. "War often is, Counselor. The trick is to remember the cost behind the spectacle." As the last of the Vexari ships fell silent, a cheer went up across the coalition fleet. Centuries of terror at the hands of the swarm had finally come to an end. But even as celebration broke out across the galaxy, the real work was just beginning. In the months that followed, the Galactic Council underwent a radical transformation. Humanity, having proved its worth and revealed its true capabilities, demanded, and received, a seat at the highest levels of galactic governance. The council chambers, once dominated by long-established species, now buzzed with a new energy. Human diplomats and scientists worked alongside their alien counterparts, bridging gaps in understanding and fostering a new era of cooperation. 1 year after the end of the Vexari War, a special session of the Galactic Council was called. Representatives from every known sentient species gathered to ratify the new Galactic Charter. Admiral Graves, now serving as humanity's primary representative, stood to address the assembly. "Fellow sentients," she began, her voice carrying across the hushed chamber, "we stand at a crossroads of history. The Vexari War taught us many things, chief among them the danger of complacency and the strength found in true cooperation." She paused, her eyes scanning the diverse gathering. Humanity kept itself hidden for centuries, preparing for a threat we hoped would never come. When it did, we stood with you, bled with you, and ultimately triumphed with you. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. But now we face a greater challenge: building a lasting peace. The new Galactic Charter before you today is not just a set of rules and regulations. It is a promise that we will face the future together, that the strengths of each of our species will be used for the betterment of all. As Graves spoke, holographic displays activated around the chamber, showcasing the ambitious projects already underway. Massive terraforming initiatives to restore worlds ravaged by the Vexari. Joint scientific endeavors pushing the boundaries of known physics. Cultural exchange programs fostering understanding between once isolated species. We propose the formation of a new body. Graves continued, the Interstellar Cooperative. This organization will oversee scientific research, cultural exchange, and yes, mutual defense. But unlike the structures of the past, it will be truly egalitarian, with safeguards to prevent any one species or faction from dominating. The chamber erupted in discussion, questions flying from all corners. How would resources be shared? How would disputes be settled? What of species that chose not to join? For hours, the debate raged. But as the day wore on, a consensus began to emerge. The galaxy had changed, and its governing structures needed to change with it. As the final votes were tallied and the new charter ratified, Analyst Lyra found herself standing next to Admiral Graves. "You've changed everything," Lyra said, her tentacles waving in a mixture of awe and apprehension. "The galaxy will never be the same." Graves smiled, a rare show of emotion. Change was coming whether we wanted it or not. Analyst Lyra. The question was whether we'd shape that change or be shaped by it. She gestured to the celebrating delegates. "This is just the beginning. We've laid the groundwork for a new era of galactic cooperation, but it will take work, hard work, to make it a reality. As the ceremonial signing of the charter began, Graves' expression turned thoughtful. You know, there's an old human saying, "The price of freedom is eternal vigilance." We revealed ourselves to save the galaxy from the Vexari, but in doing so, we've taken on a great responsibility. Lyra nodded in understanding. To lead, to protect, to inspire. Exactly, Graves agreed. Humanity stepped out of the shadows to fight a war. Now we must learn to stand in the light and build a peace. As the ceremony concluded, and the new era of galactic cooperation officially began, the chamber was filled with a sense of hope and possibility. The sleeping giant had not only awakened, but had risen to unite the galaxy in ways none had thought possible. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges yet unseen. But for the first time in centuries, the sentient species of the galaxy faced that future together, guided by the indomitable spirit of humanity and the hard-earned wisdom of cooperation. As delegates filed out of the chamber, already deep in discussion about the work ahead, Admiral Graves allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The galaxy had claimed humans feared war, only to discover a species tempered by conflict and driven by an unyielding desire for peace through strength. The true test lay ahead, not in battle, but in the day-to-day work of forging a better future for all sentient life. And humanity, no longer hiding in the shadows, stood ready to lead the way.